what are some of the most common questions that you're receiving from your patients, or maybe even some coaches that you have a good relationship with?
Mm-hmm. About COVID?
Yes, and
Yeah,
just kind of go about handling the situation.
yeah. I think right now, kind of my network is mostly facility owners,
Hmm.
and a few coaches, but I think mostly facility owners. And uh, I really feel for them because they have that economic pressure to reopen, um, just to be able to stay alive. And so the discussion that we've been having is like, really, how do you balance the risk of like athlete and community, uh, of your athlete and community with the benefit of like reopening and moving them kind of forward in their skill development or rehab or whatever. And
Hmm.
like, what are the factors that you would use to make this like risk benefit determination? Um, I'm also hearing actually like a little bit of frustration, so everyone wants to do right by their athletes. Like, these facility owners have invested literally their entire lives, like
Right.
financially and personally. And and they're doing their best to adhere to kind of local public health officials. But, when national sport or softball organizations come out with kind of blanket statements, that can be really frustrating because it doesn't apply to the local situation that a facility or team owner like might find themselves in.
Hmm.
So really the most common question is like, what do I make with this blanket statement? Like, what should I do about this? Is it really safe for me to reopen in my community? I mean, answering that question is really challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I've been directing people to the Aspen Project Play webinar that came out last week on return to sport and COVID-19.
Hmm.
There's some fantastic resources in there. And the 4 speakers that they had, I thought really did a good job of um, providing some education and kind of real life tips around, should your sport reopen, this is what we feel you should do.
Hmm.
And then providing some kind of higher level guidance for sport organizations that want to draft some recommendations. They also have something that I hadn't really considered up until last week, was a really comprehensive discussion on like the risks to the individuals that have decided to reopen their sport. Like, what's the likelihood you'll get insurance for
Hmm.
playing at that
Yeah.
field on that date? Uh, you know,
Yeah.
should a transmission occur and an adverse event occur, who's liable for that, and how to kind of protect yourself if you're an organizer. Um, you know, I think that when you read through some of the literature, and there was a great New York Times article in the last couple of weeks about baseball and that tournament that happened in Missouri, I believe. It's like modifying the sport is kind of the least challenging part, right? Like, we can say no high fives, no spit like seeds, no sharing water bottles, stay apart, whatever.
Yeah.
That's like, I think that's like the easiest part of reopening softball. I think like more challenging is this insurance piece, or
Hmm.
like, is kind of the like support, getting the support of local public health officials so they know what's happening, and should an outbreak occur, then here's our contact tracing plan.
Hmm.
Should someone show up at the park sick, here's our isolation plan, to work with
Yeah.
like the local public health authority.
Hmm.
And then the last is spectator education. Like, I think, sure, in a small uh, local sports game, it might be it is easier to say, you park your chair over here and you park your chair over here.
Hmm.
But in larger events, that's like really going to become a challenge. So educating spectators, and kind of controlling the spectators, I think, is a bigger challenge. So like, I think we're trying to have this discussion about reopening sport, and we think, oh, it's not like such a big deal. You know, we'll just have like some people stand down, you know, the edge of the field and just won't high five or have like little huddles, and it'll be
Wear
fine.
your face mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's happening on the field is actually like the least of our worries right now.
Right.